Welcome, everybody, to Popcorn and Possibilities, episode number 3. We are banging on all cylinders today. We're trying to bring some more energy each and every episode. I am Brian, and this is Steph. And let's start with a little simple. How was the weekend? Anything fun, exciting?
Weekend was good. I did go out to the movie theater for the first time since probably September-ish, fall of last year, I'll say,
Okay.
to see Sinners.
Oh.
Ryan Coogler's new film Sinners, which I have been dying to see. This will come up in clips from the archives, but for those of you who don't know, I love vampire shit.
Yes.
So I was very, very excited about Sinners. And I'm not going to say too much because you should go into this movie unspoiled and with a very open and excited mind. But what I will say is very rarely is a movie this hyped up and I go and see it and feel the hype and walk out thinking, wow, I can understand why everyone's losing their minds. And this one did it for me. It is provocative. It is visually stunning. The acting is phenomenal. The music. Ludwig Göransson is a fucking genius. The music is just out of this world. So that is all I will say. But it has my full endorsement, and I fully encourage everybody to go and experience it in theaters if you can. I really do feel this is a movie that is enhanced by the theater experience. But if you can't make it out to the theaters, when it does become available to watch it. It's definitely worth the watch as far as I'm concerned.
I think Prime is getting it soon. I don't know when.
Really?
I think, but they also were saying, I think in October they're gonna re-release it again in IMAX. So just
I've heard it is very, very good in IMAX. The theater closest to me, actually all of the theaters close to me, do not have IMAX. I would have had to have gone like 35, 40 minutes out of the way to go to an IMAX theater. So I just saw it regular, for lack of a better term, but it was still excellent. And, there's something about the audio and the darkness of a movie theater. You really feel much more immersed than when you're sitting on your living room couch or in your bedroom or whatever the case. And, sometimes I go see a movie in the theater and I'm like, yeah, it was fine. I could have easily waited till this became available streaming, but whatever. But this was one that really felt worth it to me to go see in the theater. So it was that was probably the highlight of my weekend. Outside of that, it was very much an ordinary weekend. It was too short, but it was fine.
Did they have any fancy popcorn buckets to go along with Sinners, or was it just kind of...
All I know is I got myself that bucket. Just the regular ass standard bucket. And I enjoyed that. And I didn't really look to see if they had any. I remember Nosferatu having very cool popcorn buckets. I don't remember seeing any on display, but I wasn't looking for them, so I easily could have missed it. So I just got the regular large bucket.
It might be like just more of like the big crazy budget films, but who knows?
Could be.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've been to the movie theaters. Like, I think it's been since Robert Pattinson's Batman. And
wow, that's a long time.
Yeah, and I remember the last, whatever it was, like 30, 40 minutes, like, shut off. And then when it came back, it was muted the whole time. So I watched it all with no sound.
Get out of here.
No refunds. I don't know.
Oh my God.
I don't know what it is. It's like me and Jill, like, we just don't have the best luck with going to movie theaters.
That's
like
awful.
It's either something happens with the movie or there's somebody who just, like, we had one guy one time who sat like next to Jill and he was looking for his phone and he took his wife's phone with a flashlight. So he's has the flashlight all over his seat because he can't find his phone. And I'm like, this is just not This is not what I want.
Ugh. Did you have a movie pass when movie pass was a thing?
I had it like really, really early on.
When movie pass became big, I remember thinking, this can't be sustainable. Like
Right.
this cannot, and it wasn't. They went bankrupt pretty fucking quickly.
Right.
But I was going to the movies like weekly when movie
Mhm.
pass was a thing because we were like, gotta get our money's worth in.
Right,
And
right.
I agree. Before COVID, really, that was a regular weekend occurrence. Was like, what shitty horror movie is playing at the movie theater that I can go see at a matinee for cheap or whatever.
Mhm.
And then the pandemic happened, and I think Jordan Peele's Nope was the
Okay.
first movie I saw in theaters post pandemic, and I just remember feeling overwhelmed with like joy and excitement to be walking into a theater, to smell the popcorn, to sit in the shitty ass seat that was probably a little bit stickier than I would have liked, but
Right.
it it felt like normal again for me, and I will never forget that feeling walking into the movie theater for the first time after like a 2-3 year hiatus, not having
Mhm.
seen anything. Um, and now I will say I am much more selective because going to the movies is so fucking expensive. So,
Yeah, that's the other thing, yeah.
yeah, I'm not as willy-nilly like, "Oh, I'll just go to the movies." Now it's really gotta be something that I think is going to be worth seeing in theaters, but I still very much enjoy going.
Which it's just like like wouldn't you want more people to go? I like you want it to sustain, you want it to grow, like you gotta have better deals. Especially now with the fact that like Amazon's getting it for $20. Like if I'm with five friends and we watch it for $20, like it's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are your thoughts on like the movie theaters now having seat selections rather than just you buy a ticket and you find a seat?
It's so funny you say that because I was
Hmm.
just talking about this on the way to dinners.
Yeah.
Um, because we left the movie started on as per Fandango at 6:50. But
Okay.
I've been burned so many times, like, rushing to a movie theater to get there for the start time, and then you sit through 10 minutes of ads, not
Trivia.
even previews. Right.
Yeah.
Trivia and ads and bullshit. Then you get
Hmm.
the previews, and then it's usually 20 to 30 minutes after the stated start time that you actually start the movie. So, the movie start was 6:50. We didn't roll up until, like, 6:55, grabbed popcorn, sat down, and we still they hadn't even dimmed the lights yet for previews by the time we
Hmm.
sat down. So I was thinking, isn't it wild that there was a time that you would like go to the movie box office to buy a ticket and then you'd go have dinner somewhere else close by
Yeah.
because you weren't going to stand in line at the movie theater for 2.5, 3 hours, but you didn't want to risk the ticket selling out and not being able to see the movie.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
I
true.
think the
Yeah.
seat selection thing is one of the best things that has enhanced the movie-going experience. Because that used to suck. Like, if you went to a movie theater and they were like, "Oh, we're sold out," it's like, "Well, now what the fuck do I do?" And I mean, I think back to before I was able to drive, and it was like someone's mom dropped you off, and now you're like, "Well, I told them to come pick me up at 10:30 because the movie's 2 hours," and now you're like twiddling your thumbs trying to figure out what to do. Um, I being a highly anxious person about getting places on time, having a place to sit, you
Right.
know, what being just a whole experience. Like I'm the same way with concerts and events, but
Hmm.
having the assurance that I have my ticket, I know where I'm sitting, so if I'm running a couple of minutes late, my seat's still going to be there. For me, that makes it a more relaxed experience, which I know sounds fucking insane because we're not
No.
talking about fucking rocket science here. We're talking about going to the movie theater, but it's stressful. It's stressful for me to show up someplace not really with a plan, not with a guaranteed method of entry, I guess. Whatever. So
Yeah.
I think it's great. I like it a lot.
What started it was I was thinking about going myself, which is
Okay.
always like a top like anxious thing for me. Like I only started going to concerts by myself like just because like you can wait around for friends and then they never show up, so it's like, time is limited, whatever. So with a concert, obviously it's easy because you can blend in with the crowd, and like most of the time, the few times I did it last year, like you knew who else went by themselves, and like you kind of like grouped in together, so it
Yeah,
looked
yeah.
like you. But with like the movie theaters, I feel like that aspect is that much harder because of the way, partially with the way that the seatings are now, because it's almost like a love seat, two seaters. So, like, if I pick a seat in this row of four, and then there's like somebody else, like, this is just awkward. The only thing I don't like is that if you don't buy a ticket right away, your options for like a brand new movie is the front row. That's the only thing I liked when you just bought a ticket and went in, because somebody might be like, "Oh, I want to go get popcorn first," and you're like, "Fuck you, I'm going to the seats."
Yeah, yeah,
So,
it was more of a first come, first serve. I would struggle to go see something alone because I'd be like, "What? Who am I sitting with?" And like, what if there's a couple next to me and they're like, "Oh, can we switch seats or something?" And then I got to be weird about it, and I
right.
don't know. There's a
Right.
whole new brand of anxiousness that comes along with
Yeah.
that scenario.
I mean, I was
Um,
looking for like an early time because like
yeah,
the only people who are gonna be there is like Grandma Agnes and fucking
Dolores.
yeah.
Yeah,
So this weekend I branched out to Washington D.C. I had been there
it's fun.
before. I mean it's a cool city. It's definitely has its perks. The White House I feel like is a lot smaller every time I see it. I always think of, maybe this is like dating me here, but like remember First Kid, the
Yeah.
the movie? I remember watching that and being like, wow, the White House is like so big, and then you go and you're like, it's like
It's a house.
it's our house. Like it's like the White House McDonald's in Long Island. Like it's
Yeah.
not it's not anything crazy. Um but yeah, I mean, it was a good time overall. It
Good,
was my
that's
first
cool.
time really taking like Amtrak. Um
Oh, okay.
so
How was your experience?
it really wasn't bad. I don't really notice a difference between business so much as uh, the commercial, I guess you can call it, or the
Oh, okay. Yeah,
general,
yeah.
the
Sure.
gen pop. But uh,
Economy.
yeah, economy. There you go. Um, the only thing that sucked on the way back was there was this little kid who,
Oh,
at
no.
first, I felt bad, but him and his friends were getting freaked out because like the doors you have to go through to go to another train car.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So at first it wasn't closing. So all you heard was like the screeching of the brakes of the train, and this kid is literally losing his mind. And I'm just like, why? Why? Why did I pick this fucking seat? And then his sociopath friend, these kids were like maybe like 9 years old, 10 years old, but like they stopped somewhere in like Delaware. And
Okay.
I guess there was like something to do with like switching tracks or whatever. I don't know. But his friend goes, "Oh, maybe somebody jumped and they hit him, and that's why they had to stop." I'm like, "You're
Oh my
fucking 10 years
god.
old. Like, what are we talking
Wow.
about right now?" Yeah, it was
Like,
like really just I couldn't wait to get off that train, but overall I'd still recommend, just if you can afford business for cheap, I would say just do that, but
I haven't
um
been on an Amtrak in years. Years.
mm,
I took Amtrak once and it was to go from Long Island, New York to Geneseo, New York. So you're probably thinking like,
okay, so
"Oh,
upstate.
yeah, you're probably thinking like, "Oh, same state, short ride."
Right.
Nope. Nope. It was like a 10-hour train ride.
Holy
Um,
shit.
yeah. Yeah.
Damn.
Well, 10 hours total. So it was probably like 8.5 from Penn where you catch the Amtrak up to Geneseo. But I coming from Long Island, where I was on Long Island, it was like an hour or so from where I was into Penn to catch the Amtrak. So
Okay.
total duration was extremely long. But I agree with you. I actually found it to be pretty relaxing. I like put on my music, I zoned out, and that was
Yeah.
about. I do remember. So I also had an experience with a child on my Amtrak experience, but it was not an audio visual experience. It was an olfactory experience in that
Oh.
they were the worst smelling child I've ever had the displeasure of having a whiff of in my life. So the whole entire trip, I was like, I think I'm gonna throw up or pass out. Something's gonna happen, and it's not gonna be good. And I needed like smelling salts when I got off the train just to like cleanse myself of the stink. It was so bad.
Gotta
Oh,
run to a Yankee Candle or some
it
shit.
was really. I wanted to become a Yankee Candle. I thought it would have improved the whole experience. But that aside, it was
Yeah.
fine. Amtrak is fine.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was cheap. I don't think it's so cheap anymore.
If
But
you
I'm talking this was years and years and years ago. So it was actually a cheaper option than trying to find a flight. Um
yes.
and I was probably it was in college. It was at some point in college. So I was driving. I had a car, but I was driving like a shitbox 95 Honda. And I'm like,
Mm,
this this
there's no
this
way.
this is not making it all the way upstate. So I have to find another means to get myself there.
Right, right. Yeah, I do think it has its benefits. It if you book pretty early, like 2 to 3 months in advance, it's really not that bad. Like
Oh, okay.
you can get tickets for around $50.
That's not bad
Um,
at all.
yeah, so and especially like with flights nowadays, like flights are insane. All right, so should we get into our watch or what do you think?
We're back on the nostalgia train, baby.
Yeah. So this time we did a little Freaky Friday here. We did a role reversal. And it's one that I have seen and Steph has not seen. So we're changing the tides here. The movie is Can't Hardly Wait, the 1998 film. Glorious film. Just want to add that in because I don't like the ratings that I'm about to read right now. So Rotten Tomatoes is 42%.
Ooh.
Popcorn is 63%. IMDb 6.5 out of 10. Meta is at 53%. And a user score of 6.4, which 42 is like
42 is
brutal.
that's very, very harsh. That's lower than Never Been Kissed, and Never Been Kissed was low.
Yeah. I
What's
I don't
funny
know.
though is looking at like every other score other than the tomato meter, if you look at the popcorn, the IMDb, the Meta, and the user score on Metacritic, they are all pretty in line with
Like
Your Never Been
similar.
Kissed, Your She's All That. They're all very, very similar. Um,
True.
that's interesting. Oh, actually, She's All That was worse on Rotten Tomatoes. That was a 41.
Yeah, and I've already had issues with that, so
Yeah,
we're gonna go to war soon with Rotten Tomatoes.
yeah, yeah.
uh, the critics' consensus on this is on Rotten Tomatoes is occasionally clever and moderately intelligent. Can Hardly Wait also contains too many cheap laughs, recycled plotting, and flat characters. I was gonna save that till the end, but I was curious.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I don't agree, but anyway, if you want to start us off with the
Sure.
plot, yeah.
The plot summary for this is going to be a lot less to unpack than She's All That and Never Been Kissed. Can't Hardly Wait is very different in that the movie opens up with high school graduation, and the entire rest of the movie takes place that night at a house graduation party. And I feel like Can't Hardly Wait had a believability in that it literally felt reasonable that you could have watched all of these things occur because they all happen in the span of one party. And, I know parties are usually more than an hour and 40 minutes or whatever the case, but it felt easier to follow than trying to put yourself in a 3-month time span in an hour and a half movie, you know?
Yeah, it was a lot of different viewpoints, even
Hmm.
if the characters weren't fully like had a story to tell, like they
Right.
kept going back to different kinds of characters and different types of situations. I think you got for the first time like you got nerds, you had jocks, you had
Popular
just like
girl.
the popular girls, you had just like the average Joe, which I feel like Preston was,
Yeah,
like not
yeah, for sure.
popular but not like a loser type. Usually they're in those two categories, and then you had the like drunks slash stoners, and then
Yeah.
the band, which I don't know if the band was really part of the school or like they. I don't know. It's like
It
remains to be
was
seen.
very hard to tell. It was very hard
Yeah.
to tell. So, I guess the long and the short of the plot here, and Brian, feel free to jump in because you know this plot better than I do.
Hmm.
Preston, our protagonist, I guess you would call him,
Hmm.
finds out that I guess she's like one of the most popular girls in school. She was the prom queen, the homecoming queen, junior prom queen, head cheerleader, played by Jennifer Love Hewitt. So Amanda,
Hmm.
just got dumped by the equivalent most popular jock in school, my man, Peter Facinelli. I we'll get there. We'll get
Mike
there.
Dexter.
Mike Dexter. They've been together all
Hmm.
throughout high school. They break up. And Preston has had a crush on Amanda. It's implied that it's for a long time. They don't really say it like, oh, since the moment I laid eyes on her, but you could tell it's been at least the length of high school, if
I
not
feel like
dipping
it
into like
was.
middle school territory.
Yeah,
Um,
I want to say it was like the beginning of high school because of that scene where she comes in late. I don't know if she's like a new student or something. I
oh
forget
yeah,
that
yeah,
part.
yeah. You're right, you're right, you're right.
So, because I think then he says like it changed the whole trajectory of it, like when
Yeah,
Mike took
yeah,
her to tour the school or whatever. So,
right, right.
um,
So she's newly on the market, and Preston basically decides, and he's conversing and plotting with his best friend Denise that tonight is the night he's going to shoot his shot. Basically, he has this like letter professing his feelings for her that he's going to give her at this party because he's leaving for college the next day. I think he's going to Boston.
Boston, yeah.
Boston, yeah.
Hmm.
So that's going to be his last hurrah of high school. Is he's going to go to this party, he's going to shoot his shot, he's going to give Amanda this letter and see where it goes. And then they go to the party. And you basically follow, to your point, a couple of different vantage points. So let's start with William.
Okay.
So William is like implied to be probably the smartest kid in school, but also like
Hmm.
the biggest nerd in school, also. And he's got some wacky plot with his two friends that they're gonna expose Mike Dexter for the jerk that he is, and they have this whole revenge plot that they're gonna find him at this party, and I don't
Yeah,
even
that
know.
was I feel like there was a lot simpler ways they could have come up with a plan, especially in that big of a party. I think the ultimate revenge, because they say later on, was like the speech he gave. Mike tripped him and like ruined his moment.
Yeah, but that is William's whole motivation for going to this party is to set up this elaborate revenge plot against Mike. Fine. Then you
Mhm.
follow Seth Green's character, Penny, and his like two no-name friends that their whole
Like,
plan is they're going to this party and they're having sex with girls. That is
yeah.
the they make like these
Hmm.
backpacks that are like I don't
Sex backpack.
I don't even know. I
The
don't
fucking
even know.
candle.
The candle, they've got like a copy of the Kama Sutra in there. There's like baby oil. It's very strange. I don't know. Um we learned during Can't Hardly Wait there was a lot of crossover with people that we know from other movies of this time making random appearances, and he was one of them.
Hmm.
Um, and the other friend, the upside down visor guy, was in Never Been Kissed, also. Um, again, as a random background character that I don't even know if they gave him a name, but he was there. Um, then you get a glimpse into the perspective of Mike Dexter and his two, like, implied popular jock friends. one of whom is Sean Patrick Thomas, who I immediately recognized from Save the Last Dance and was very distracted throughout the movie because that's all I could think about.
Hmm.
But again, Peter Facinelli is Mike Dexter. He is the only one of these people with a name. Everybody else is just kind of his friend, and
Friend
that's
one,
about as,
two, and three.
yeah, that's about as much character identity as they're given. But basically they're like, I can't believe you broke up with Amanda. Like, we should break up with our girlfriends. And they basically have this pact. Peter Facinelli is like, girls suck, go break up with your girlfriends. And they're like, yeah, we're gonna do it tonight at this party, whatever. And they get all hype about that for who
Which
knows what reason.
I'm like, that's your game plan, like,
Yeah,
because he's
I
like,
don't
oh,
know.
we'll just go off like chasing girls and getting college girls, but it's like, but you've only just graduated. Like, where
Right,
you're going to a house party with all the girls you went to school with.
right.
Like,
And so let's unpack that for a second.
hmm,
I don't necessarily think, and I know, shout out to all my high school sweethearts out there. I know it does exist. But
hmm,
I do not think that is an uncommon thought process of people who
no,
are dating in high school. Is that like, all right, but when we go to college, like, we're this probably isn't going any further than high school. So I don't necessarily think that's an unfair thought. Like, everyone's kind of going their own way. You're going to new places. You're probably going to meet a bunch of new people. Maybe you don't
hmm,
want to be committed to anybody as that's happening because that could get complicated. But
right,
like you said, for them to just be like, "Oh, we'll dump them at this party tonight," when really it's not. The only one who's established to be going away to school is Preston.
yeah,
Everybody else, as
yeah,
far as we know, is staying in the same town. So it's very weird. It should also be mentioned that Denise is begrudgingly going to this party with Preston. She really would not be going otherwise, but he kind of bullied her into going as his best friend. Um, and then really that's the backstory you get is these people. I think Mike Dexter and his friends are at a diner before the party. Preston and
yeah.
Denise talk outside of the graduation, like in his car. Seth Green and his cronies are at the convenience store buying shit for the sex backpacks. Like, it's just, you're
They
kind
think
of
they're
all over
getting
the place.
laid. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
But then everything ends up converging at the graduation party later that night. And that's where the rest of the movie takes place.
Which another thing, like, it's like so 90s, where it's just like, I'm just gonna tell her how I feel and give her this love letter. Like, that
Right.
would not work
No, it
for
is it
anyone.
nope. And this is another thing. So we've talked about how I blame these movies for making me have unrealistic expectations about prom because prom is always like this huge. And that was another interesting thing about this movie. There was no you didn't everything took place graduation and beyond. You did not see prom at all.
You didn't, yeah, yeah.
It is referenced that Amanda was the prom queen, but you don't have to sit through watching another elaborate prom that is nothing like the prom you experienced yourself. Um, but the same way that these movies hyped up high school and prom, they also did that with my expectations for like what high school love was like.
Yes,
Your love
yes.
letters, your poems, all this other shit, like, that was not it, in
No,
generally speaking.
not at all.
Me being the hopeless romantic loser that I was like, "Oh, if I just write some love poems, I can score a guy. Terrific. I'm good at poetry."
Right, right.
And I promise you, that did not go the way I had hoped in many circumstances.
Hmm.
Um, but I agree with you. There is a very idealized version of what it's going to be like to confess your feelings to somebody. Um, Especially in letter form. Like, I could see saying like, I'm gonna shoot my shot at this party. Maybe I'll have a couple beers. I'll get some liquid courage, and then I'm gonna say what I need to say. But like,
Right.
what's your plan, guy? You're gonna walk up to this girl you said like 10 words to, hand her a letter, and be like, read this when you get a moment. Like, I
Like,
don't.
I've been watching you for 4 years. I
Yeah,
think
here's
you're the
every
best.
observation and thought I had. That's kind of creepy if you think of it. I don't know. It's a weird choice. But whatever. It's the driving plot device of the movie. Um, before I should say before, really the rest of the movie is seeing
It's bouncing
everyone's
around.
experience at this party
Yeah.
from different perspectives. So William's perspective is probably the most fun because he
Yes.
goes there, you know, as the biggest nerd in school, he ends up getting plastered. But he ends
The
up
beer is
really
bad.
the beer is bad, yeah. He has I guess it's implied to be like his first sip of beer. It's
Yes.
basically implying he's not had alcohol before because he walks in and he takes a beer and he takes a sip and he's like, "Everyone stop drinking, the beer is bad." And everyone's like, "It fucking tastes fine to me." And then he just kind of moves on and keeps drinking.
And he has
Um
like the chart that like shows like how drunk are you.
yeah. But it definitely reminded me of my first sip of
Mhm.
Bud Light. I I think I've shared this with our listeners, but if I've not, I did not drink until my 21st birthday. So I turned 21 and I was stoked. I literally chastised the cashier at CVS who was trying to sell me my Mike's Hard without asking me for an ID. I yelled at them. I'm like, "You're not gonna ask for my ID?" And she was like, sure, I guess." Because I was so excited that I waited until I could do it myself, and
Mhm.
I could have done it at fucking 15, and clearly this woman would not have cared.
Right, right.
Maybe I had that look about me, like that newly 21 look. I don't know. But
Right.
I remember after I had already I was drinking exclusively sweet stuff because it was my first foray into alcohol at all. So I was
Which
sticking to
I
stuff.
feel like that's common.
Yeah, like stuff I knew I'd like your Smirnoff Ice bullshit, Mike's Hard, all the sweet stuff. And someone handed me a Bud Light at some point in the course of the night. And I was like, this is the most revolting thing I have ever had. Never. I literally don't think I drank beer again until I was like 25 or 26. And that's when
Right.
I started getting into craft beer. And I was like, oh, okay, I do enjoy this. This is fine. But that moment was very relatable for me because when I had
Yes.
my first sip of beer, I was like, who drinks this? This is disgusting.
Yeah, I
Um,
had a Miller or a Coors Light, and I remember being like, "What the fuck
yeah,
is this?
yuck.
Like, this is
Yeah.
what I waited for?" Because
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was 16 or 17. I want to say 17 actually
yeah,
when it was the first time, and I remember it so vividly because it was, like you're in high school, you've seen it in movies, you've
yeah.
heard people talk about it, it's like this whole hype thing, like, and I tried it, and I was like, "Oh, this is fucking awful." And so then my friend was like, "Oh, you should try like we're gonna have like Jello shots." Their plan was to make Jello shots. That plan didn't come to fruition. So it was basically Bacardi Raz
Oh my
liquor
god.
in a water bottle
Oh
mixed
my
with
god.
raspberry Jello powder. Yeah, and it
Oh my
tasted
god.
horrible. But like I drank like a decent amount before I was like, this just no, I can't do
This
this.
ain't
Yeah.
it.
But like at that age, like it was easier to get like one bottle of liquor than it was to like try to buy like a
A
six
six
pack or
pack.
12 pack or
Yeah,
whatever.
sure, sure.
So it was like whatever you could get your hands on. I eventually got used to beer, but yeah, that was my first experience with that. Not a fun
No,
drinking
no.
experience, but yeah. But yeah,
Um,
so he definitely loosens up
yeah,
pretty
well,
quickly.
it's kind of fun to watch his perspective because it's really him coming out of his shell, but it's also everyone else at the party realizing like he's not this buttoned up, like completely straight lace nerdy guy. Like he has a really funny personality and he can be really outgoing. Um and that's one of the more fun perspectives that you get to watch.
Hmm.
Um you know, when Amanda first comes into the party, you've got Mike's friends' girlfriends who I guess it kind of seems like they weren't actually her friends. She was more friends with them by association when they go to comfort her when she walks in. But
Yeah.
she's basically having that 2020 moment of clarity looking back. Like, I dated this guy for 4 years. My only identity was being his girlfriend. He was actually an asshole pretty much the whole time.
Hmm.
Uh, Now I've really got to figure out like who is it that I am and kind of break away from this relationship and this breakup and everything.
Which is pretty common, and I think it's
For sure.
common like in actual high school and ending of high school, and you realize like it really is such like a time warp where
Hmm.
like when it is over, you're like it's over.
Right.
It's literally like leaving a small town. I think I said this like a episode ago, but it's like it feels like you're just leaving this small city and you're like branched out. I mean,
Right.
obviously if you stay local, you may see some people, but like it's just not the same anymore,
I found it extremely relatable when she was talking about the relationship with her second cousin, which is
which
also
was
like
bizarre.
we a lot all of these films have some problematic elements, and in this one it wasn't a teacher and student, it was a second cousin hitting on Amanda. It was very, very uncomfortable to watch. But he's basically asking her, like, if this guy was such a jerk, like, why did you stay with him for so long? And she kind of goes into, my identity was Mike's girlfriend. And
Mhm.
I was afraid of being alone, and I didn't really know who I was outside of that anymore. And I feel like not just talking about young love and like high school relationship, but when you leave a long term relationship and you're kind of going through in your mind, like, oh, I probably should have gotten out of this a while ago if it's a relationship that didn't end well.
Yeah.
I feel like oftentimes the reasons people stay are this
That's all
is
I know.
this is who I am. Yeah, like
Yeah.
this is all I know. Or, well, if I leave them, what if no one else wants me? I don't want to be alone. That's
Yeah.
an extremely common sentiment. So, even though this was talking about a high school relationship, and, you know, we kind of talked about our feelings on the usual trajectory of a high school relationship, it was a 4-year long relationship. And I found that to be a very relatable statement um,
Mhm.
from Jennifer Love Hewitt's character. So, that's part one of her journey in this party. The second part we're going to get to, because now we're going to go to Preston's perspective. So Preston's
Yes.
perspective is basically, I don't
Find
want to say
her.
stalking because that's not the right word, but trying to find where she is at this party that night so he can give her the letter and kind of, you know, open his heart to her. And unfortunately, so he finds her sitting in a room and he's about to go, like, I don't know, confront her, start the conversation. And this like random guy is like, let's reminisce about every memory we've ever had since elementary school.
Mhm.
So by the time he gets this guy to like shut the fuck up and leave him alone for a second, she's gone. She had gone off with the second cousin who sat down next to her and was like, let's talk about it. You're probably really upset, whatever. So
Right.
then he gets all pissed off because he's like, I was right there and you ruined it. Stop
Remember I was
talking
trying to
to
tell all these stories and trying to meet this impressive girl and you kept telling me all these asinine stories?
Yeah.
No, when
Yeah.
was that? It just happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then he finds her again, but it's at the most uncomfortable moment of probably the whole movie when the second
Mhm.
cousin decides he's going to lean in and start making out with her. So
Yeah.
she is like desperately trying to push him away, but from Preston's perspective, he can't see that. He just sees that some guy is,
I mean, he
putting
doesn't
the moves
know
on her.
who
Right.
she yeah.
Right. So he gets all frustrated. He walks outside, he throws his letter in the garbage, and he gets in the car and leaves for a little bit. And then you don't see him for a while. But what you do see is, you know, rom com physics. The letter,
Yes.
it
Perfect
flies
way
out
to
of the trash
describe it.
can on a light breeze. It lands in the Chex Mix. Then somebody knocks it out of the Chex Mix. It lands on someone's shoe. Then it gets kicked into her lap. Not exactly that
It's
series of
basically the
events.
influence for the Corona commercials that you
Right.
see.
Right. Right. So, one way or another, she gets her hand on this letter and it's addressed to her. So she opens it and she reads it and she's like, this is actually really sweet. Who the fuck is Preston? So, her first point of view throughout the party is fuck Mike. I'm over it that he was an idiot. But then the second half is her like, I have to find this Preston guy. Who is he? So, you follow her around for a little bit as she's trying to find Preston. Before we get back to Preston's perspective, you've
Mhm.
got Denise, who is just fucking miserable. Like, every
Yeah.
scene of her in this movie, she is not having a good time at all.
Hmm.
So you follow her around being grumpy for a little bit. And then you
To
get
the
to
point where
find,
people didn't even recognize that she went to the school. They had
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that like
I told you she went to our school. Um, and then you meet up with Seth Green and his cronies who are just trying to hit on women completely unsuccessfully. Like, painfully unsuccessfully.
painfully, yes.
Yep. So then
Why you
Seth
gotta
Green,
ruin my flavor? Damn.
yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
So Seth Green finds himself overhearing a conversation between these two girls who, again, they don't have names. They're just two girls at the party. And this one girl is basically like, I can't believe my boyfriend was cheating on me. What an asshole. And the friend she's talking to is like, well, how are you going to get back at him? And she's like, I'm going to have sex with the next guy who hits on me. And she's like, no, forget the next guy who talks to me. So then Seth Green falls backwards out of his chair in a very comedic fashion. And he drops like, what was the line? You probably know it by heart.
I don't know it by heart, but it's like you must have died and went to heaven because like you're an
Because
angel.
there's an angel in front of me. Yes, something
Yeah, yeah. I
brutally
must have died and went to
awful.
heaven because you're an angel. Yeah, I'm in front of an
Yes.
angel. Some shit like that. Yeah.
Oh my god, it was really bad. And then basically she implies like, I'm ready, let's go. So
Yeah.
now we get into just extreme hijinks of the movie. But before we get there, because two plot lines are about to converge, we
Yes.
need to jump to some of the best cameos and one of the dumbest. I can't even call it a plot line. Like, segments of the movie.
Yes.
So at this house party, there's a
Hmm.
band. We
Yeah.
don't know if they're high school age. We don't know if they're from the same school, but there's a band there. And of note, Donald Faison is in the band. I think he's the drummer, and many of us know him from Scrubs and Clueless, icon. And
Yes.
Breckin Meyer, weirdly also from Clueless, but he was also in Rat Race. He's been in a bunch. Yeah,
Rat race. I
he was
remember.
the
Yeah.
yeah, but he was the skateboarder with the long hair. In
Uh. Okay.
Travis, I
Okay.
think was his name. Um, so they're these knuckleheads in this band. They're not credited in this movie. They're just
Which is
kind of there.
crazy.
Yes,
Yeah.
because they were iconic in this time period. Um, but basically they're arguing about, can you wear the shirt of the band you're seeing when you're seeing them? And they get into this fight over that, and then they're like, we're breaking up. And literally this goes down in the course of 2 minutes, and you don't see them again until the end of the movie.
Hmm.
But it was heartwarming for me to see them, because it was like, oh, I know those guys, they're so great.
Hmm.
And it just made for a couple of very funny, like, slapsticky kind of moments. Um, but anyway, then also of note, you've got the host of the party, who again doesn't have a name.
Who's just
She's Girl Who
batshit
Throws the
insane.
Party in IMDb,
Yeah.
and she is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. This girl, absolutely nuts the whole night, walking around smelling people's shoes because she thinks she smells poo on the floor. Freaking out over the mess. Her parents are going to be home soon. Just
Painting
like,
was like the photo was all like fucked up.
right, and it literally, what I did appreciate about this movie is I feel like this was the most realistic portrayal of someone throwing a house party, because there was that
With that many
anxiety moment of
people?
like, yeah, like, the house is trashed. It smells like shit in here. There's filth everywhere. My parents are going to be home. What am I going to do? Like, it wasn't just some like rich kid with a mansion who had 1,000 people over somehow. It seemed
Yeah.
very realistic. Like, this girl bit off more than she could chew. She told the whole graduating class, "Come to my house. My parents aren't home," and now she's regretting that choice throughout the entirety of the movie. Um, but anyway, so we left off. Seth Green wants to have sex with this girl who's trying to get revenge on her cheating boyfriend. So
Hmm.
he goes to the bathroom with his little sex bag, and he's like smelling the candle. He's reading the book. He's studying sex
Practicing the
positions.
positions. Yeah.
Right. And then he starts like blow drying his balls. I really don't know why. I think that's what I don't even know if that's what he was doing. It seems like that's what he was
Yeah.
doing.
I think he like spilled something and
Oh.
so he was trying to clean it
I thought he
with the
was trying
blow
to
dry.
freshen up, quite frankly. I don't know what his thought process was. But as he's in the bathroom doing these shenanigans, Denise is having a miserable time. And these two random people are eating a brownie on the stairs. I don't know if it's supposed to be like a pot brownie or what, like an edible,
I feel
but they
like it
eat it.
is. Yeah.
I feel that is immediately the
That's
vibe
what
I
I
got.
went to. Yeah.
Yeah. And the girl goes, "Oh, this brownie sucks." And she just like throws it and it beams Denise in the head, like right in the hair, like frosting in the hair.
Mhm.
And she's already fucking miserable. So, as you can imagine, she's like, "Why the fuck am I here?" So she goes into the bathroom, opens the door. Seth Green's got his balls out with the blow dryer. Very
his
awkward. They
his
both start
legs are
like,
like in between the sink and the tub.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
They both start screaming. He's like, "Get the fuck out." She's like, "I'm trying." And then the doorknob like rips off, essentially locking them together in the bathroom.
yeah.
So that's where we are with these two.
Mhm.
Um, you do get Peter Facinelli's perspective throughout, Mike's perspective throughout the movie, but he's more following up on the diabolical plan of his friends to dump their girlfriends that night, which
Yeah.
is not they all decide they're getting Pearl Jam concert tickets, all this other shit. So really, they're like, "No, we're gonna wait. Like, we're gonna wait till the end of the summer." And he's like, "You guys fucking suck." And then he just goes and gets shit faced because he
He's
then
miserable.
so I'm missing a huge part of this. Forgive me. He realizes maybe I shouldn't have broken up with my girlfriend yet. So he goes, he finds Amanda. He asks,
Well, to pause that, he basically realizes his friends aren't giving up their girlfriends. He goes to get drunk. As he's getting drunk, he goes to meet what I assume is his, like, used to be the king of the school. Trip McNeely is the
"Oh
character.
yeah, yeah." Yes, that's true. That's true.
And I think, and then Trip McNeely's like, so he's thinking like, oh, he's probably like killing it in college. Like basically what Mike's envisioning is his future.
Right.
So he's saying it's bad news, and then he said, "Oh, you were going with Amanda, like you should go back with her, like she's a good one or whatever." And so that kind of trips Mike up, which then leads him to be like, "Okay, I got to get back with her."
Right. So he asks her back in a very public way, and she rejects him in a very public way, which just leads to him getting even more shit faced. And then probably one of the more wholesome pair ups of the movie for the
Yeah.
time being. Him and William end up spending a lot of time together, and Mike apologizes for being like a dick to him, and they both get really drunk together. And that's kind of where their plot lines converge and kind of
Hmm.
stay for the rest of the party. Um, then I guess before we get back to Preston, because I do want to get back to Preston,
Yes.
let's stick with Denise and Kenny for a second. So they're locked in this bathroom, and they lead you to believe at the onset that these are just like two random people who got stuck in a very awkward situation. But what you come to find out is that they were like best friends growing up. So
Hmm.
Denise is kind of recounting all of these memories about them growing up together and memories, and then they start out really happy and sweet, and then it goes to, "You got too cool to hang out with me. You started making fun of me." What was it, Denise? Something looks like a tampon or something. Just
Yeah, like looked like a tampon and
yeah, which is
whatever, and then
who says that? First of all, that's
yeah,
the weirdest insult I've ever heard. But
and then I think he like taped one to her locker or something like
yeah,
that to
yeah,
some shit,
yeah,
and she called him a. She told somebody that he was a dentrophiliac, somebody
yes,
who has sex with trees.
freeze, yes. But basically, they're in this bathroom, kind of unpacking what happened to their friendship and why they drifted apart, and that there was never any ill feelings. They were still important to each other. And then because, I'm seemingly trying to converge and wrap up plot lines, they end up sleeping with each other in this bathroom where they remain for the entire rest of the party. So that's
Yeah.
Denise and me. That's where they kind of end up. So Amanda's still roaming this party looking for Preston. Preston Where did he end up driving that he ended up in that parking lot at
So
the
he was listening to the radio, and
Yes,
then Barry Manilow was in the studio or something. He basically wanted to ask Barry Manilow if the song "Oh Mandy" was like about a
his
dog.
dog.
Yeah. So he decides to go to this phone booth at which I didn't realize it's 2 a.m.
Yeah.
So I don't know how long that party he was at that party or whatever, but it's like now 2 a.m. and there's he decides he has to make this call. There's a stripper there. Uh,
Another
uh,
big name, Jenna Elfman is the stripper. She was a huge name in the 90s.
Dharma and Greg.
Yeah. And again, not credited at all. Just there.
Mm. Just random 2 a.m.
Just
lady.
randomly there. I think on IMDb it says angel because she's got angel wings as part of her costume. I don't know. And it is important. The Barry Manilow piece is important, and I forgot to mention this earlier, so forgive me. Because when he's explaining to Denise that like tonight's the night, I'm gonna shoot my shot when they get to the party. Oh Mandy by Barry Manilow is playing, and he's like, see, this is my sign. Oh Mandy, Amanda is the girl I'm going to profess my love to. This is a sign. And
Mm.
Denise says Barry Manilow wrote Oh Mandy about his dog. So
Yeah,
that's where the Barry Manilow tie-in comes in. Because now he's questioning everything because
it didn't
He
go out
saw,
how he.
yeah, he
Yeah,
saw Amanda with this other guy. It didn't pan out the way he thought, and he's like, maybe it wasn't a sign. Maybe this is about his dog. I gotta ask him now. So basically, he has this whole conversation with the angel, the 2 a.m. angel, about fate, and she has a really powerful line about fate that I didn't
yes,
write
I
down.
have.
You have it?
A, she says a bunch of things prior that
Talking about
was
Chachi and his
yeah
his bandana.
basically kind of saying a similar thing because she has the impression that Preston is in love with Barry Manilow,
Yeah.
not understanding the story. But anyway, she says fate will only take you so far, then it's up to you to make it happen,
Yep.
which
That's it.
I think is like a very powerful kind of
It's a
statement.
great line. Yeah, it
Um,
really is. It really is.
he gets the faith to be like, you know what, I'm gonna go back to the party from that point.
Yep. So attempt number two, he decides, you know what, you're right. I have to make it happen. Goes back to the party, finds Amanda, who is looking for him, but doesn't know who he is. And he basically just randomly says, like, I love you at her.
Yes, which is
And then
insane.
yeah, absolutely batshit insane. And then
Mm,
he starts kind of trying to backpedal and explain why he just blurted that out. And it is met. Rejection isn't even the word. Um,
yeah,
she's like, hey, fucking creepo, basically, get the fuck away from me and get a life. Like, something's wrong with you. I want nothing to do with you. Get the fuck out of here. In so many words.
which which is understandable because
Fair
like
enough. Yeah.
yeah, she's been hit on like 6 times after that whole brutal like breakup, we're not getting back
Right.
together scene. So
Right. Um, and now Preston is like, all right, well, it's over. That's it.
I love I love the guy walking up to him and just being like, "Thanks, man. That's the funniest thing all I've
Yeah,
heard
I've
all
seen all
night."
that. Yeah. Yeah. And then there are some other notable cameos peppered throughout. Like Jason Segel is randomly around eating a piece of watermelon. Like
High
I
as fuck.
I don't know. Also, Melissa Joan Hart spends the entirety of this party running around begging people to sign her yearbook and then getting pissed off because her yearbook keeps ending up like in the garbage can, stepped on the floor. Her character is so fucking random. Like she's not credited, but I kind of understand why because it's so random. And then who's the one that so basically she's continuing to go around after she tells Preston off like I still got to find this Preston guy, not
So
realizing
she
that
runs
who
into
she just
Melissa Joan Hart. That's what it is.
oh, and up to this point everyone is describing him like as poorly as possible. They're like, "Oh yeah, he's a guy. Oh, he's got
He wears a
he's got
shirt.
brown hair, but it's not really brown. Like, just the worst descriptions of another human being you could possibly imagine. But yes, you're right. She finds Melissa Joan Hart, who's like, Amanda, sign my yearbook. And then she's like, oh, a fucking yearbook. This is great. And she finds Preston's picture and realizes that's who she basically just who she just told to go fuck themselves. Um, and then she feels like horrible because I'm pretty sure he just leaves after that.
He just leaves, yeah, and somehow she's able to track down where he lives and gets to his dad and finds
Dad,
out where
yeah,
he's going, which is like,
yeah, insane. Yeah.
yeah.
But now I think it's around this point. So like now everyone's plot line is kind of tied up. Peter Facinelli and William, I keep calling him Peter Facinelli instead of Mike. Mike and William are drunk as fuck, like being friendly with each other when they're like mortal enemies as far as anybody is concerned. Um Denise and Kenny had sex in the bathroom and they're still in the bathroom. Um Amanda tells off Preston and then realizes what she did and feels bad about it. Preston feels absolutely completely dejected and leaves. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden the cops show up at the house party and they bust the house party. And everyone just frantically starts running out of the house. And then right before that happens, the band, Breckenmeyer
Yeah.
and Donald Faison, make up and they decide they're getting back together when, to be honest with you, I don't think anybody realized they broke up. And this was in
Hmm.
the course of a few hours. But it made for a very, very funny moment. Um,
Yeah.
and
Just a couple of songs, see where it goes.
yeah,
They were literally broken up for like a few hours.
yeah. And then the only other like plot tie back that happens now before the movie concludes as the cops are busting this party is William's two random friends from the beginning of the movie who were recruited to be part of this diabolical revenge plot see Mike stumbling out of the house as the cops are here, and they're like, now's our chance. So they tackle him to the ground with the person he's with. They basically, like, they pull his shirt up, they pants the person he's with, they position all the weird props, for lack of a better term,
Yeah.
and they start taking Polaroids, but then they realize the person he's with is William.
Hmm.
And they're like, oh, fuck, we gotta get out of here. So they just abandon ship and leave. And then the cops find William and Mike like half naked with all these sex toys all over them. And they're like, all right, we got to take these guys in. This is a little bit too much. Um, and the night really ends with William being in a jail cell, waking up there. And he wakes up because the officer's like, wake up, kid, your parents are here to pick you up. And he's like, oh my God, are my parents mad? Does my dad have a
Yeah.
weapon? That line killed me. I was dying. And he's like, "Oh my god, I'm so drunk. Like they're gonna be so mad." And he's like, "Oh, not really. That Dexter kid in his statement said that he bullied you to the point that he forced you to drink alcohol against your will. So your parents are really more worried about you than anything else." And that's like supposed to be Mike's redeeming moment where he covered for William basically, and
Yeah.
it made a tried to make up for his transgression, I guess, of ruining his big moment during his speech and basically bullying him throughout the entirety of their school career. And you can
Right.
tell in William's face, he's like, that Mike guy, maybe he's not so bad. Um, and then it fast forwards to Preston at a train station, and he's getting ready to get on his train to Boston. Um, Amanda shows up at the train station, and that's when she divulges, like, I realized this was your letter. I tracked down your dad. He told me this is where I could find you, which again is insane.
Yeah.
And
What was the
she
word
basically,
you said before? Like rom-com magic?
yeah, yeah, it's rom com magic. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And she basically says like, oh well, I guess it just wasn't meant to be because you got to get on that train. And he's like, yeah. And then she walks away and he's standing there and then he turns around and starts to walk towards the train. And I believe my direct quote to you was, ain't no way he's getting on that train. Um, so he walks towards the train. He keeps looking back. She looks back. He looks back. He drops his bags and runs after her and says, I can always catch like the 7 p.m. train or the later train, whatever he says. Um, and he got his chance. There it was.
And it was a success.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's
Uh,
about where the movie wraps up. So, quite the ride, quite the ride.
mhm.
I also need to throw a massive shout out to the soundtrack of this movie because,
Yes.
oh my god, this soundtrack
Mhm.
is very, very good. It's a time capsule.
Right.
So, I heard Eve 6, I heard Third Eye Blind, I heard Blink 182, Barry Manilow. What I also appreciated is that some of the like Graduate by Third Eye Blind,
Mhm.
they could have gone with Jumper, they could have gone with Semi Charm Kind of Life. Graduate is like a deep cut. Now, granted, it's appropriate based on the context of the movie. They all just graduated high school, so it made perfect sense. But it was exciting to hear that in a movie that I would not have expected that to have been the track that they picked.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, overall, we got another time capsule, I would say, into the
Yeah.
late 90s. We got our rom-com magic, we got our problems and our strange plot devices, but those have been common themes throughout all of these movies. So
Yeah.
I can't say anything positive or negative about it. It was a sign of this
Time.
era of
Yeah.
filmmaking. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. So this one for me, I felt like I related to parts of a lot of the characters. I got the aspect of Preston of like feeling anxious, and then I always was thinking, oh, it just has to be like the perfect moment. It just has to be
Yeah.
like everything fall into place. And it's like that's just not realistic. Waiting for the perfect moment all the time, like you'll just time will pass you
You'll wait
by.
forever. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that's kind of like my like background on why I love the movie, but I also always love like slapstick comedy and I love like
Sure.
the one-liners of it. I think Seth Green's like one of the funniest characters in this because
Yeah.
he's just so
For
stupid.
sure.
But
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
for me, like I still I would still go it as a Clear Skies because of the fact that it's my nostalgia. But like rewatching it yesterday from more of our like podcast and like rating
Objective
perspective,
standpoint, yeah.
yeah, I would say like it's not. It would be like an overcast
Yeah.
probably, but
Well, and that's been that's been a thread across all of these movies is that these are not technical revelations. You're not going to see any beautiful cinematography. The
mhm,
best sound you're going to get out of these movies is the back soundtrack, the OST, because they've all been very good. And the acting is fine. It
yeah,
ranges anywhere from like quite bad to fine.
mhm,
And I think what's interesting is how our nostalgia and our personal attachment to the characters or to the movies themselves is impacting our rating.
mhm,
Um,
yeah,
because for me, much like I've said about every other one of these movies we've watched, it's probably going to fall anywhere between a cloudy and an overcast because it is it is a movie. It is not a best
yeah,
picture winner. It is not the most horrible thing you've ever seen. It's also not the best thing you've ever seen. It's fine. It's a movie. It's an
mhm,
acceptable,
right,
passable movie with, some definite charm, some definite problems, um,
yeah,
and a lot of specific attachment to characters. Really, that's what
yeah,
drives how you feel about the movie. For me, all right, so without further ado, my rating, and I will go out and say, like I said for every other film, this is probably going to fall somewhere between a cloudy and an overcast by normal movie standards.
right,
And I probably put it right about there too. It's probably an overcast for me.
okay,
I thought it did have some charm. I really, really did like the it's one night shot from different perspectives. I think that was a very unique plot device compared to this movie's peers of that time. And
mhm,
I did think some of the characters had endearing qualities. Um like I agree with you. I was a very hopeless romantic person, so I found Preston to be even though he's the male protagonist, I found a lot of elements of his character to be relatable. I thought Amanda had some great lines about identity and really finding yourself and not being defined by your relationship and all of those things. But and I
Mhm.
really found some of the cameos throughout the movie to be really fun and endearing. But for me, this was another movie with a lot of problems, like a lot of shit that did not age great. And
Mhm.
not so did She's All That, so did Never Been Kissed. But I've got the nostalgia buffer in there. That's like it didn't age well, but
Yeah, because
you
you've
know,
seen
when
them.
I first saw it, that was not a crazy thing, or like I
Right.
didn't really think much of it. Whereas watching this one for the first time, I was like, oh boy, like,
Yeah.
ew, that would not fly today. But I thought it was fine. It's a fine movie. It fits right in with all of the movies we're watching. I thought it also had some good moral messages, I guess, about life is only what you make it. You have to go out there and make shit happen for yourself. Don't
Mhm.
waste your life waiting for the perfect moment, or you're just going to waste your life.
Yeah.
But I don't have the nostalgic attachment. So for me, I was like, it's a movie. It was fine.
Right, right,
It was
right.
cute. It was cute.
D Do you know what I hate, though? The false aspect of it was, like, the whole like, Mike ends up, being a drunk and losing his scholarship and all this stuff, and, like, that is, like, so not realistic.
No,
Like, they can bully you in high school and end up being doctors.
or like
It's
CEOs of big companies,
y
wildly successful in whatever they do. Yeah, for sure,
yeah.
for sure.
Alright, so there you have it. We're almost on the wrap up now with 10
Yeah,
things I hate about you.
yeah. Our epic conclusion.
Final stop. Um, you wanna do our, wrap up here?
Yeah. So another trip down memory lane tonight for Brian. A new fun watch for me. But really, we've really been having a good time going back in time and re-experiencing these movies and everything that comes along with it. And we want to hear from you guys too. Have you seen these movies? Do you love these movies? Do you hate these movies? Want
Yeah.
us to watch another one? Please, please feel free to jump in on the conversation. We are at Pop and Pos Pod on Instagram, and you can find us on YouTube as well. So if you have thoughts, if you have comments, if you have recommendations, if you just want to share, a story, an anecdote with us, please feel free to get in on the conversation. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. Alright. Well, that's, concludes another episode. So, I am Brian.
I am Steph. Thank you so much for hanging out with us and for listening, and we will catch you guys next time
Catch you on the flip side.
on the flippity flop.